When the Galactic Council ordered the execution of the human child on charges of destabilizing universal harmony, they did not anticipate Earth's silence would be the calm before the storm. Earth, a planet once dismissed as primitive, archaic, and emotionally volatile, had long buried its wrath beneath treaties and diplomacy. But the death of the child, a 7-year-old ambassador's daughter named Ilara, murdered publicly on the artificial moon of Scythar Prime, ripped through the Terran psyche like a black hole through a star, and in the silence that followed her last scream, ancient signals pulsed from beneath the Martian crust, echoing across forgotten frequencies as encrypted command chains activated war protocols buried for over 10,000 years. The Council had miscalculated, assuming Earth's rise had only come in the last few centuries, unaware that humanity had once ruled the stars before voluntarily retreating after the celestial fracture, a self-imposed exile following a war so devastating it rewrote galactic maps and erased dozens of civilizations, Earth included, from collective memory. But now, under the blood-red skies of a morning planet, massive hangars unsealed for the first time in millennia, revealing ships constructed from alloys that defied modern physics, vessels older than the Council itself, marked with runes, and AI cores that had once guided humanity's godlike dominance. Ships like the Leviathan, Soul's Wrath, and the dreadnought Ash of Eden, each pulsing with life, as ancient synthetic minds awoke and whispered vengeance into the void. Diplomats fled embassies, alien observers watched in horror as space warped around Neptune's orbit, and the sun briefly dimmed when the Ark ships activated their core reactors. Terran High Command, long considered a myth by even Earth's own, People resumed its role under the command of Director Kalen Voss, a man born from genetically perfected lineage designed only for war, his voice cold and emotionless as he broadcast a single message to the galaxy. By fire and silence we come for balance. And then Earth vanished, not destroyed, but cloaked in a veil of antimatter static as the fleet emerged from Sol's shadow. Stars bending to the gravitational engines of vessels so massive they turned moons to dust with their approach. And in the heart of the command bridge of the Sol's Wrath, a hologram of Ilara's final moments replayed on loop as the crew, descendants of forgotten warriors, watched in silence, no longer bound by peace, no longer held back by memory, but driven by an ancient code once etched into every soldier's blood. No Terran child shall die unavenged. The Council convened in panic on the crystalline world of Veltraxis, their high towers shimmering under the pressure of a threat they thought extinct. Voices rising in disbelief as surveillance feeds from across the outer sectors displayed the impossible. Earth's ancient fleet tearing through defense perimeters that had stood for millennia, destroying Council strongholds with surgical precision and brutal elegance, their weapons unlike anything in current galactic science, silent beams of void light that unraveled matter at the quantum level, gravity lances that collapsed enemy ships into singularities and drones, millions of them, swarming like a storm of intelligent steel locusts, each one encoded with ancestral memories of war. Panic turned to terror as worlds once considered fortified, Corellan, Mutharis, even the twin moon bastion of Senhar, fell in hours, not days, their populations spared only when they refused to resist. For Earth was not conquering, it was cleansing, reclaiming a balance that had been shattered by the Council's arrogance. In the war chamber of the Ash of Eden, Kalen Voss stood before a star map riddled with enemy systems, his eyes glowing with the neural interface of the ship's AI, a sentient being known only as Oracle, who whispered probabilities, tactical equations, and genetic profiles of Council leaders marked for elimination, all while a haunting lullaby hummed beneath the systems, Ilara's favorite song encoded into the fleet's operating rhythm, so that every Terran ship pulsed in time, with the memory of her smile. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, species once cowed into submission by the Council began to rise, inspired or terrified by Earth's return. Some sent envoys bearing weapons and apologies, others begged for protection, while a few, driven by old blood debts, offered warriors to join the Terran cause. But Earth accepted no allies, not yet, for this war was not for politics or power. It was a reckoning, and reckoning was personal. Deep in Council territory, hidden within the vaults of the Prime Sanctum, Eldark Rylos, the one who signed Alara's death order, watched the destruction unfold, his 3 hearts thudding with dread as a new message reached him, untraceable, and encoded in a Terran dialect extinct for 9,000 years. Your sentence begins at dawn. Rylos knew there would be no negotiations, no redemption, only fire, because Earth had not come to be understood or feared. It had come to be remembered. As the crimson light of artificial dawn broke over Veltraxis, the Galactic Council's capital world trembled beneath the shadow of Earth's dread fleet now fully assembled above its atmosphere. A wall of titanic vessels blotting out the stars as if the void itself had come to pass judgment. Each ship an ancient relic of a forgotten empire reborn, alive with wrath and precision, their hulls adorned with war glyphs that pulsed in rhythm, with the fury of a species once thought buried by time and myth. Inside the command nexus of the Leviathan, the largest of Earth's warships, Kalen Voss stood encased in a neuro throne of living metal, his mind fused with the tactical mind net of the fleet, giving him simultaneous access to every ship, every weapon, every Terran soldier awaiting the final order. And with a mere thought he triggered the final stage, Judgment Protocol initiated, a command that would turn Veltraxis into a memory, not as an act of rage but of balance. For humanity no longer made war from emotion, but from principle, and the Council's sin was not only the death of Alara, but the centuries of suppression, manipulation, and quiet extermination of thousands of lesser civilizations deemed unstable or inferior by the Council's technocratic arrogance. In orbital descent pods, Terran reclaimant forces prepared for atmospheric breach, their armor forged from dark matter composite and embedded with ancestral soul chips that carried voices of warriors long dead, now whispering strategies into the minds of their descendants while orbital AI constructs activated Lex Talionis, the law of retaliation, calculating exact measures of pain to be inflicted in proportion to what was taken, a philosophy older than the stars themselves. Council defense fleets attempted a desperate stand, unleashing their newest war machines, biocores, solar scars, ethereal shredders, but they were decades, centuries behind what Earth had once been, and now was again, their ships falling like embers into the void, torn apart by dimensional phase blades and silence cannons that erased not only sound, but the very memory of resistance. Inside the Citadel spire, Eldark Rylos issued his last command, evacuate the inner circle. But he knew it was meaningless, for Earth did not need to occupy or conquer, it merely needed to end. And above the Capitol dome, a single Terran drop pod pierced the planetary shield with a resonance pulse that collapsed the energy matrix in silence, descending like a sword of judgment, and from it emerged a lone Terran prime-born child, no older than Alara, clad in white armor lined with gold filaments, her eyes glowing with encoded vengeance, her voice amplified across the city by the AI chorus that followed her descent. She was 7, you will remember her name. And then the child raised her hand, not in anger, but in decree, triggering a symphony of destruction as the Terran fleet unleashed a full-scale atmospheric purge, not with fire but with memory storms, psychic implosions that rendered every council structure into crystalline ash, preserving only the core libraries and historical databanks, for Earth wanted the galaxy to remember not only the cost, but the why, and from the ashes, a new signal echoed outward from the Sol system, carried by quantum echoes to every corner of space. 3 words burned into the stars, never again forgotten. And as Veltraxis fell, the other council worlds followed, not through invasion, but through collapse as systems built on fear crumbled in the face of remembered wrath, and those who had once laughed at Earth now prayed for its mercy, which would not come, for mercy belonged to peace, and peace had ended the day the child screamed.